Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, and remember, context is everything. Media Network founder and CEO John Michael is reading a book, a self-help book, called Dissolving the Ego and Realizing the Self. We've read 2 chapters so far, which are basically just 33 tidbits about the first chapter being about the ego, the second chapter being 33 little tidbits about the mind, and you can find them here. Let's go into part 2. Transcending the Self. Let's just jump right in. Transcending the Self. Dr. Hawkins explains when the self, the ego or mind, is transcended, truth stands revealed. There are various pathways to truth and self-realization, including the pathways of the mind, devotion, meditation, and contemplation. Each pathway empathizes a different approach or style to arrive at the same end. This section addresses different avenues Dr. Hawkins has emphasized for self-realization. And so this is chapter 3. Pathways of mind. The pathway of mind, also called pathway of no mind, is the pursuit of truth via knowledge through a thorough examination of the illusionary nature of the ego, the mind, and their various programs. Enlightenment then occurs through a letting go of these false programs, whereby one experiences a realization of what is. In these contemplations, Dr. Hawkins provides a spiritual aspiration, in these contemplations that we're about to read, Dr. Hawkins provides the spiritual aspirant with clear direction to navigate out of the ego's house of mirrors. So why don't we go into these reflections now? The very process of studying the mind already begins to diminish the ego's grip. The sense of self begins to shift locus, and the feeling of one's inner I begins to progress through the layers of consciousness. In actuality, the ego self doesn't have to die at all. Life doesn't come to an end. Existence doesn't cease. And no horrible, tragic fate is waiting to end life at all. Like the ego itself, the whole story is imaginary. One doesn't have to destroy the ego or even work on it. The only simple task to be accomplished is to let go of the identification with the ego as one's real self. With this relinquishment of identification, the self actually goes right on walking and talking, eating and laughing. The only difference is that, like the body, it becomes that instead of me or this in the ongoing narrative in the mind. You're no longer talking about me or I, you're talking about that. I'll tell you, I'm not there. All that is necessary, then, is to let go of ownership, authorship, and the delusion that one invented or created this self, and see that it was merely a mistake. That this is a very nature, and inevitably mistake is obvious. That this is a very natural and inevitable mistake is obvious. Everyone makes it, and only few discover the error and are willing to or able to correct it. The ego is not overcome by condemnation, hatred, and guilt. Rather, one de-energizes it by viewing it objectively for what it truly is. That is, a vestigial remnant of man's evolutionary origins. One is not truly ruled by the mind at all. What the mind reveals is an endless stream of options, all disguised as memories, fantasies, fears, concepts, and so on. To get free of domination by the mind, it is only necessary to realize that that its parade of subjects is merely an arbitrary cafeteria of selections, wandering their way across the screen of the mind. Radical humility can be arrived at only by confronting thoughts and opinions to their verifiable validity. This means that willingness to let go of all presumptions of thought. With persistence, the vanities disappear as truths and are now seen as the basis for errors. With persistence, the vanities disappear as truths and are now seen as in the basis of errors. In one final glorious crash, one realizes that the mind doesn't really know anything. If anything, it knows only about, and it cannot really know, because to really know means to be. That which is known, for example, to know about China, does not make one Chinese. But if you were born in China and you were immersed in their culture, you are Chinese, is what he's saying. To limit the mind to what is provably known is to reduce the size and influence so it becomes one's servant and not one's master. It becomes obvious that mind actually deals in presumptions, appearance, perceived events, non-provable conclusions, and mental activities that it misidentifies as reality. No such reality exists. As it is constructed by the mind. When carefully examined, one finds that opinions are worthless. They are all vanities and have no importance or intrinsic merit. Everyone's mind is loaded with endless options, and when seen for what they are, opinions are really only mental activity. What is of more importance, however, is that opinions stem from the reinforced positionalities, and it is these positionalities that bring on endless suffering. To let go of personalities is to silence opinions, and to silence opinions is to let go of personalities. Basic to the ego's continuance, the capacity to dominate is its claim to authorship and its subjective experience. The I thought is extremely quick in interjecting itself as the supposed cause of all aspects of one's life. This is difficult to detect except by intense focus of attention during meditation on the origination of the thought stream. The time lapse between an initially sensed occurrence and the ego's claim to authorship is 1/10,000th of a second. Once the gap is discovered, the ego loses its dominance. It becomes obvious that one is the witness of phenomena and not the cause or doer of them. The self then becomes identified as that which is being witnessed rather than as the witness or experiencer. In summation, it can be said that the ego is a compilation of positionalities held together by vanity and fear. It is undone by radical humility, which undermines its propagation. To undo the dominance of mental content, it is necessary to remove illusions that thoughts are personal, that they are valuable, or that they belong to or originate from one's own self. Like the body, the mind and its contents are really a product of the world. The thought, I know, precludes the ultimate awareness of the real I am. The word know is dualistic and assumes a dichotomy between a separate subject, the knower, and something external to be known. Reality becomes self-evident when the obstruction of perception and mental activity are removed, including all belief systems. It is not really necessary to subdue the ego, but merely to stop identifying with it. Cease to identify with the body, emotion, mind as me. Be truthful and admit that they are yours, but not you. This may seem artificial, strange, foreign, and unnatural in the beginning, yet the basic reality is that the truth of a higher order, which makes it very powerful and formidable tool. The mind will try to deny this reality as well as truth. That's what it is supposed to do, because truth is intuited as its nemesis. So is that saying that the ego and the mind like to put you at the center? And so truth, with you not at the center, becomes the nemesis of the ego and the mind, because the ego and the mind put you at the center, but in reality you're not. Whereas ordinary information is acquired by effort in spiritual endeavor, the emphasis on relinquishing, letting go, and surrendering. The work involves identifying personalities and then transcending the ego's resistance and relinquishing its illusory control or sovereignty. Thus, the core of spiritual work is aligned with the undoing and unloading of the mind rather than its enrichment. Complexity is perception of the ego and the mind. The sharp knife can cut through hundreds of different objects. There is only the necessity of one simple action. Analogously, there is only one simple key concept to disengage from all the ego's encumbrances. It is only one addiction, which is subjective, pleasure, and gain. That is the secret payoff for all desire, projected values, and attractions. This is exaggerated by projected value, worth, glamour, and specialness. There is only one gain, and this same gain is merely superimposed on everything that is desired and therefore attracts attachment. The pleasure is associated with derived happiness. Thus, the ego has only one goal. That discernment enables escape from all attractions. This solitary motive is merely projected onto multiple diverse objects, personalities, qualities, events, and circumstances. The clever ego can extract the juice, payoff, or secret gratification and pleasure from anything it arbitrarily selects, Actually, it is always just the same goal over and over again. The what that is desired is actually irrelevant. The locus is imagined to be out there, but is actually in here. For the pleasure gained is subjective and internal. The relinquishment of a single, solitary goal unveils the reality of the self, which is the innate prime source of all happiness, and its realization terminates all wants and desires. The locus of happiness is always solely from within. Pleasure is transitory, joy and happiness are from within. The key to transcending the inherent limitations of the ego and mind is humility, without which the mind is hopelessly trapped in its illusory house of mirrors. Once the evolutionary structure and function of the ego are understood, its disassembly is facilitated by the inner decision to pursue that which is real and eternal rather than that which is temporal, transitory, or ephemeral. The human mind is like a ship at sea that is unable to correct its direction without a compass or an external source of reference. Such as the stars, it is important to realize that a system is only correctable when it has access to external point of reference, like a global positioning system that serves as an absolute by which all other data are compared. To transcend the mind is to see that the many and the one are the same, without the contrasting mental dualistic terms of many or one. Neither would be said to exist. Instead, there would only be this realization: all is. I'd say this has been a pretty interesting reading so far. Tomorrow we'll carry on, and tomorrow we will... I'm just going to see how long this is. Tomorrow we will likely finish this section here. And let's see how long that reading will be. Yeah, tomorrow we'll finish up. God bless. Goodbye. Have a good day, and if you've subscribed, please like. If you like this, please subscribe. God bless. Goodbye.